Friday afternoon while on a road trip to Florida, I seen this tweet from RBT. Does Colorado still win 9 games without Travis Hunter? And does Boise State still win 11 games without Ashton Jeanty? Now, emphatically, I said the answer was probably no to both. But I got to thinking just a little bit deeper. Exactly how valuable are all 4 Heisman hopefuls to their prospective teams? And as a Miami fan with our own Heisman hopeful under center, that got to thinking. Exactly how valuable are all 4 Heisman finalists to their prospective teams? So in today's video, I will be taking Travis Hunter, Ashton Jeanty, Cam Ward, and Dillon Gabriel all off of their prospective teams, simulating one season, following along, and seeing just how important each player is to their squad. Now, with this being a single season, we might take a look at every single week, and off the rip, Boise State loses their first game versus Georgia Southern of all teams. Colorado played an FCS opponent, so they got an easy win 59-2. Miami without Cam Ward still beats the Boo F Baby Gators. And Oregon, same thing, played an FCS opponent, gets the win without Dillon Gabriel. Now, this is interesting because Boise did play Ohio State in real life. They barely lost. Some say they might have should have won. So right here, we get to see a direct head-to-head impact between Jeanty and Gabriel. Now, as one would expect, Oregon does still beat Boise State, but it's not the blowout I thought it was going to be. Boise State only loses by 7. Boise State doesn't have the rush production that they would normally have with Austin Jeanty. And Dante Moore, the sophomore quarterback for Oregon, held his own, throwing for nearly 300 yards. The Hurricanes continue with an impressive win as they play an FCS opponent, so that's an easy dub. And Colorado stays true to self, still losing in Nebraska. After 3 games, Miami is still 3-0, beating Ball State in week 3. Colorado beats the brakes off of their rival in Colorado State. And I'm anxious to see what Shedor's passing numbers look like without Travis Hunter. He throws for 302 touchdowns. Who's the receiver that's stepping up in his absence is still Will Shepherd. Some may argue that he's actually the best receiver on Colorado. And I would also argue that Shedor Sanders is actually kind of getting hold because he should be in the Heisman talks as well. Boise State in week 3 had a bye, and Oregon takes care of their rival Oregon State 41-7. Now, this is where things get interesting. Without Cam Ward, Miami loses to USF 30-16. Emory Williams was the starting guy. He threw a pick and a touchdown. On the ground, Damian Martinez barely got any carries. Through the air, Sam Brown Jr. is the one putting in the work. But it looks like more to true life, the Miami defense was just non-existent. Colorado continues their winning ways, beating Baylor 43-10. And again, I want to see what Shedor is doing. 237, 3 touchdowns, no picks. They actually got a run game going here today. And is anybody on the defense making plays in absence of Travis Hunter? It looks like they are. Nakai Hill Green called a pick. Cameron Silman Craig called a pick. And Ivan Yates called a pick. Now, Boise State gets their first win of the season, 41-13 versus an FCS opponent. Even though it's FCS, I want to see who's picking up the slack on the run game. Jabris Dubar did pick up 89 yards and a touchdown. Sire Gaines got a touchdown as well. Now coming over here to Oregon on week 4, they had a bye. They pick up next week versus UCLA. Now Colorado handles business this past week, 29-27 versus UCF. Boise State continues their winning ways, beating Washington State 27-24. Miami bounces back with a not so controversial win versus Virginia Tech 34-24. And Oregon gets a dub 45-21 versus UCLA, improving to #1 in the nation. Now, week 6, the Colorado Buffs had a bye. They pick up this week versus Kansas State. Boise State picks up another win versus Utah State, 31-28. Miami doesn't have to come back versus Cal. They win this one, 31-15. And Oregon takes a tough L to Michigan State, 17-14. Now here we are in week 8, and we're halfway through with the season, and I want to see who emerges and takes over as a new Heisman hopefuls without the familiar faces. So we got Cade Klubenik from Clemson is leading the way, Brady Cook of Missouri, Trayshawn Holden, the receiver from Oregon, Carson Beck, quarterback of UGA, and Tyler Schuff, the quarterback of Louisville. So we still don't have a Shedor sighting, even with the other quarterbacks not being in play. Colorado in week 7 gets a big win versus Kansas State, 23-21. They've really come back and beat up on some teams here, but they're still not cracking the top 25. Boise State continues to win with a 35-17 victory over Hawaii. Miami gets to take a break after the Cal game with a bye. And Oregon loses back-to-back games, 31-29 to Ohio State. So in week 8, Oregon finally bounces back with a 49-14 win over Purdue. Miami gets absolutely smoked versus Louisville, 66-21. Colorado takes a tough L to Arizona by 14. Boise State has easy, smooth sailing with the bye. Oregon loses 2 of their last 3, dropping the game to Illinois 31-23. Boise State catches an L to UNLV 16-10. Colorado gets back in the win column versus Cincy 37-10, and they jump back into the top 25. And Miami gets back-to-back loses taking an L to bum SU. Down goes Oregon again. They take a 3-point loss to Michigan. Miami bounces back with a dub versus Duke. Colorado gets to chill again with another bye. And Boise State takes back-to-back L's to San Diego State. Boise still can't find themselves back in the win column. They drop 3 in a row. Colorado picks up another big win, 24-23 versus Texas Tech. They jump up to number 12. Miami gets back-to-back dubs, knocking off Georgia Tech 27-22. And Oregon finally gets back in the win column with a 28-24 win over Maryland. Got some movement in the Heisman watch list, but still no Shedeur Sanders. Oregon drops another, this time to Wisconsin by 10. Boise State gets back to 500 with a win over San Jose State. Colorado continues their winning ways, getting a dub versus Utah by 8. And Miami's chilling here in week 12 with a bye week. Boise State's back on the losing end and losing by 29 to Wyoming 36-7. Colorado picks up another big win, 21-14 versus Kansas. Miami's back in the top 25 after a dub versus Wake Forest. And even though things are all bad down here in Eugene, they get lucky. They have a bye before they take on Washington this week. Finally advances to where we are now in conference championship week. This is the way things are looking. Miami finishes off the season at 8-4, 5-3 in conference. Colorado finishes off the season 9-3, 7-2 in conference. Oregon is 7-5, 4-5 in their conference. And Boise State is at 5-7, 3-4 in their conference. So comparing the stats here on the game without their top player and what they are IRL, Oregon drops 5 more games without Dylan Gabriel. They're 12-0 IRL, just 7-5 here in the game. Things are just as nasty for Boise State, and they actually fall to under 500 without Ashton Jeanty. 11-1 IRL, 5-7 just here throughout the sim. Miami drops 2 extra games without Cam Ward. 10-2 IRL, just 8-4 here throughout the sim. And Colorado finishes with the exact same record, 9-3, 7-2 in conference. It looks like Travis Hunter might just have the most help throughout all the Heisman finalists. To try to see who picked up which slack of the Heisman finalists, IRL Dylan Gabriel right now in conference championship week is at 3,200 passing yards, 24 touchdowns to just 6 interceptions, 73.5% completion percentage. Meanwhile, Dante Moore in his absence, 3,500 passing yards, 27 touchdowns and 13 picks with a 66% completion percentage. For Miami, Cam Ward, 4,100 passing yards, 36 touchdowns, 7 interceptions with a 67.4 completion percentage. Things were split here in the sim. Emory Williams, 2,200 passing yards, 19 touchdowns, 15 picks, 65% completion percentage. Puffenbarger, another 1,000 yards, 8 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 60% completion percentage. I would say the Miami replacements took a major step back. For Colorado, on the offensive side of things, Travis Hunter has 92 catches, 1,150 yards, 14 touchdowns. The top reception getter is going to be LaJohntay Wester with 62 catches. The top yards getter is going to be Will Sheppard with 872. And the most touchdowns is also going to be Will Sheppard with 10. On the defensive side of things for Travis Hunter, he has 31 total tackles, 20 of them are solo, 11 assisted, 11 pass deflections, 1 forced fumble, 4 interceptions. For Colorado, Colton Hood is going to be the DB with the most tackles. He has 51 solo, 6 assisted, 57 total. Top corner with the most interceptions is going to be DJ McKinney with 4. And the top pass deflection is going to be DJ McKinney as well with 8. Now, with the type of season that Ashton Jeanty is having, we already know that his replacements are going to take a major step back. Jeanty this season, 312 carries, 2,288 yards, 7.3 yards a carry, and then he also adds on 28 touchdowns. Over here in this sim, Chambers Dubar, 179 carries, under 800 yards, 7 touchdowns. Gaines has 7 touchdowns as well. Between the two, they're still under 100 rush yards a game, and they don't even come close to getting the amount of carries that Jeanty gets also. Now, when it comes to the amount of wins, the only team that can say that things really didn't matter if they had their Heisman hopeful or not is Colorado, but in the same breath, Travis Hunter's production was not met. Same thing when it comes to production. Oregon is the only team where their offense still reigns supreme no matter who they had at quarterback. So it's pretty safe to say, as we all would have thought, without a Heisman hopeful, things are going to change drastically. When it comes to Colorado, they just happen to have 2 pro players that can help uplift the team with Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter, as to where the other 3 Heisman finalists don't really have the same amount of help. Just for shits and giggles, we go ahead and sim another season just so the CPU can come close to recreating what actually happened in real life. As of right now, Miami is 10-2, 7-1 in conference. Colorado once again finishes 9-3. Oregon finishes their perfect 12-0. And Boise State finishes above 500, but they do still lose 3 games. Cam Ward still a little bit under what he did IRL, but look at this, 31 touchdowns, absolutely 0 interceptions. Shador had a crazy season, even though this video is not about him. 45 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Travis Hunter, 59 catches, still a little low, but his yards are similarly close. He does have 4 less touchdowns than what he has IRL. Most games get this wrong with players that play both sides. They had this wrong in MLB The Show as well. He doesn't register any stats on the defensive side of the ball. That's silly. Dylan Gabriel has a phenomenal year, 3,500 passing yards, 36 touchdowns, 0 interceptions as well. And as we know, the hardest one to recreate is going to be Ashton Jeanty. He actually got injured in this one. 52 carries, 427 yards. He was averaging 8.2 yards a carry and 5 touchdowns. So it's safe to assume if he would have kept that up, he would be around what he was IRL. And the major takeaway from today's video is that all 4 Heisman finalists are essential to their team and their success, which is obvious. That's why they're Heisman hopefuls. Let me know down below who you guys feel as though is the most valuable Heisman player on their team. And also, who do you have winning the Heisman Trophy come the end of the season? For me, I got Travis Hunter. But if you want to keep the party going and see me realign conferences and simulate 10 years in the future to see how things will shape out, click right here. And I'm going to holler at you in the next one. I'm out of here. Peace.